I'm going to keep going, but I'm going to get onto the more of the doctor stuff. And I guess to conclude this and to start that part, I just want to add that the ways they are, the coronavirus isn't getting worse. Maybe they can genetically mutate it and release something worse, possibly. But the same virus that we are just focusing on right now. Because in all honesty, I believe that we can start focusing on how many car crashes kill people and then go in quarantine and stay home and never fucking drive again. Because there's a hell of a lot more people die in cars than from this virus. But anyways, from what I can tell, and if you are not actively taking back your mind and being depolarized and reject, banish, denying, and the multitude of things I tell you to do to protect yourself, if you're not doing any of that, well, be aware. This is what you need to research. This is what you need to look into. And this is what you need to get into your mind, is what's going on. Coronavirus can't hurt you, and it won't hurt you. But what it will do, right, I need to check on my daughter's water. What it will do is, first of all, you're in quarantine, you're at home, you're not getting exposed to germs and viruses that you need to. People generally get sick whenever they first start going outside, when spring hits, the end of winter, some early summer. The stronger your immune system is, the sooner you start going outside, the better odds you get. So you need to continue to keep going outside, even interacting maybe with just your family members, and because everybody they interact with, if somehow a germ got on them, then you're interacting with everybody they ever interact with. And I know right now that seems like it's a bad thing, but it's not. It's not at all. Second of all, turn off the news. Look it up if you don't believe what I'm saying, because I am not a neurologist or anybody who studies the brain, but I am studying the brain right now on my free time to understand this stuff, to be able to explain this stuff, just because I want to learn it and I want to teach people so they're not fucked over. But whenever you have too much of an emotional response, especially with fear, it's going to put a trigger in you. It's going to send you into fight or flight, which also reduces your immune system, because it's putting all the blood and all the energy into your feet and your hands. The reason for this was, if there was a fucking tiger eyeballing you and wanted to eat you for supper, well, you would have that emotional response, and you wouldn't have to overthink it or freeze or whatever the case is. It would automatically go, the blood will go to your hands and your feet, so you can run the fuck out of there and use your hands to protect yourself if need be. Now, the meat shortage is something you should be aware of as well, but I wouldn't keep following it, because they're going to make it out worse than it is. And be mindful of what I said about the meat and the animals and, whatever. And I guess the last part is just the fear. They're tossing around. It's old-fashioned mind control. It's, and it can lead to us removing our rights and losing our rights. And we don't have rights at the moment, but I can't imagine it getting any worse. Well, I can, but... So anyways, I'm going to move on to some other stuff that all circles this, but it's just a different guy I'm going to be YouTube interviewing, and it's not really an interview, it's just playing clips, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, enjoy the rest of George.
I decided to look around for something else to worship, something I could really count on, and immediately I thought of the sun. Happened like that. Overnight, I became a sun worshiper. Well, not overnight, you can't see the sun at night. First thing the next morning, I became a sun worshiper. Several reasons. First of all, I can see the sun, okay? Unlike some other gods I could mention, I can actually see the sun. I'm big on that. If I can see something, I don't know, kind of helps the credibility along, So every day I can see the sun, as it gives me everything I need: heat, light, food, flowers in the park, reflections on the lake, an occasional skin cancer, but hey, at least there are no crucifixions, and we're not setting people on fire simply because they don't agree with us. Sun worship is fairly simple. There's no mystery, no miracles, no pageantry, no one asks for money, there are no songs to learn, and we don't have a special building where we all gather once a week to compare clothing. And the best thing about the sun, it never tells me I'm unworthy. Doesn't tell me I'm a bad person who needs to be saved. Hadn't said an unkind word. Treats me fine. I worship the sun, but I don't pray to the sun. Know why? I wouldn't presume on our friendship. It's not polite. I often thought people treat God rather rudely, don't you? Asking trillions and trillions of prayers every day, asking and pleading and begging for favors, do this, give me that, I need a new car, I want a better job. And most of this praying takes place on Sunday, his day off. It's not nice, and it's no way to treat a friend. But people do pray, and they pray for a lot of different things. You know, your sister needs an operation on her crotch. Your brother was arrested for defecating in a mall. But most of all, you'd really like to fuck that hot little redhead down at the convenience store. You know, the one with the eye patch and the club foot. Huh? Can you pray for that? I think you'd have to. And I say, fine, pray for anything you want. Pray for anything. But what about the divine plan? Remember that? The divine plan. Long time ago, God made a divine plan. Gave it a lot of thought, decided it was a good plan, put it into practice. And for billions and billions of years, the divine plan has been doing just fine. Now you come along and pray for something. Well, suppose the thing you want isn't in God's divine plan. What do you want him to do? Change his plan? Just for you? Doesn't it seem a little arrogant? It's a divine plan. What's the use of being God if every rundown schmuck with a $2 prayer book can come along and fuck up your plan? And here's something else, another problem you might have. Suppose your prayers aren't answered. What do you say? Well, it's God's will. Thy will be done. Fine. But if it's God's will and he's going to do what he wants to anyway, why the fuck bother praying in the first place? Seems like a big waste of time to me. Couldn't you just skip the praying part and go right to his will? It's all very confusing. So to get around a lot of this, I decided to worship the sun. But, as I said, I don't pray to the sun. You know who I pray to? Joe Pesci.
Now, I'm just going to interject here for a second because this thing, I know it's a comedy skit, it's stand-up comedy, but behind Chaos Magician in one of his books that are all very great, maybe with an interview. I looked this up because Uncle Birch talks about this. He talks about how Phil Hine, and while he was doing his study of thought forms and egregores and servitors, invented squat. There's a parking god helps you get a good parking spot. And if you're in the car, you can pray to him and you'll get a good parking spot. Someone will just leave, or you'll just see one you didn't see before. But anyways, he wanted to test the thought form, the validity of thought forms and egregores. And so, in the time that he grew up, and I'm guessing he liked Star Trek as well, Star Trek has its own little world where they have their followers, like the apostles, like Roman Catholics, okay? Well, the followers of Star Trek would be called Trekkies, and they know everything about every character in there, and in their minds, these things are real, and even if it is real within their mind, this shit is still real to their subconscious mind. Every episode's in there, every attribute, everything. Therefore, he decided to use those thought forms, those characters, those personifications, those people as making like a big pantheon of servitors and egregores. And basically, if you wanted wisdom, intelligence, whatever, you would call on Spock. If you needed to get maybe a call to action, some intelligent action, intelligent thought behind action, you would call on Captain Kirk, because Captain Kirk, you know, for as smart as Spock is, he can always be, Captain Kirk knows how to, sometimes he has to take a few punches to the face, but he can get Spock to do what he wants him to do, and he's not afraid, he's fearless and all that. Captain Uhura was maybe similar to maybe like a Mercury for when it comes to communications officer or something like that, so she would help you with things of that nature, very technical stuff. But anyways, the point is, he made it possible, and it worked, to use everybody who believes and follows and loves Star Trek, their emotional power, their focused power, their mind. They don't even know that they're doing it, but he was using their mind to fuel these thought forms and egregores, that energy within these characters, and he was able to use that and change his life around basically by doing this thing. So this is why I say it's very important to study thought.
And like, just to add to this, on the days of conventions, whether it's the Star Trek conventions, the time of years of those days, those would be heightened days. Kind of like if you do astrology, whenever the planets are in certain places. Well, if you know the movie is on cable or whatever, or there's a new movie coming out and people are going to go watch that, well, that would be the time to call on these things. Because if people are watching a movie and the main characters in the movie are Uhura, Spock, fucking Kirk, and what's his Scotty would be like if your computer broke and shit like that. So I know I said Uhura was something else, but anyways, on those days where thousands, maybe millions of minds are focused on the movie, and their mind subconscious is no difference between real and fake, and they're watching this and it's real. Therefore, if you call on those deities when everybody's mind is at the same time as you're doing that, their mind is on these deities, it's more powerful. And that's a little bit when astrology, when these planets come around, they affect people in all these different ways. So when you call on these planets to do things, well, they're affecting everybody simultaneously on the planet, differently depending on what your birth chart is and the transit chart and how they coexist. That's the wrong word, but anyways, so yeah, I just wanted to add that in there.
Start doing them, even if you don't know much about it. What you do know, just start putting it in practice and keep good notes. But what is he doing here? He's talking about the sun, but he's giving it a name, Joe Pesci, and he's giving it the attributes of whatever, and he gets what he gets out of it. So that's what that made me think of. But it also makes you think about what I said earlier. If someone created this God, which is highly probable, and down the line they kept notes on how to use everybody who believes in the Christian God or Jesus or anything that has to do with the Catholic Church, they have the recipe, the notes, the spell to be able to harness that power, which anybody can do that, by the way. I know how to do that. You just got to get creative and believe in what you're doing, and then you'll do it. But the point is, if someone has done that, then you are praying to someone else's God and thinking it's your creator, and that is so wrong, it's unbelievable. But anyways, let's continue on, shall we?
Joe Pesci. 2 reasons. First of all, I think he's a good actor, okay? To me, that counts. Second, he looks like a guy who can get things done. Joe Pesci doesn't fuck around. In fact, Joe Pesci came through on a couple of things that God was having trouble with. For years, I asked God to do something about my noisy neighbor with the barking dog. Joe Pesci straightened that cocksucker out with one visit. It's amazing what you can accomplish with a simple baseball bat. So I've been praying to Joe for about a year now, and I noticed something. I noticed that all the prayers I used to offer to God and all the prayers I now offer to Joe Pesci are being answered at about the same 50% rate. Half the time I get what I want, half the time I don't. Same as God, 50-50. Same as the 4-leaf clover and the horseshoe, the wishing well and the rabbit's foot. Same as the mojo man. Same as the voodoo lady who tells you your fortune by squeezing the goat's testicles. It's all the same, 50-50. So just pick your superstition, sit back, make a wish, and enjoy yourself. And for those of you who look to the Bible for moral lessons and literary qualities, I might suggest a couple of other stories for you. You might want to look at The 3 Little Pigs. That's a good one. Has a nice, happy ending. I'm sure you'll like that. Then there's Little Red Riding Hood, although it does have that X-rated part where the big bad wolf actually eats the grandmother, which I didn't care for, by the way. And finally, I've always drawn a great deal of moral comfort from Humpty Dumpty. The part I like the best, all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. That's because there is no Humpty Dumpty and there is no God. None, not one, no God, never was. In fact, I'm gonna put it this way. If there is a God, may he strike this audience.